So I started a novel last month, and that was also the last time I worked on it, unfortunately. But recently I saw a video by Brielle Wrights which talked about finishing your novel, and I'll link to it down below because it really motivated me to set some specific goals and start writing again. So I redid my Act 1 outline because I wasn't excited about it, and now I am with all the new things that I've changed about it. I kept my original idea, which I'll share a little bit later, and I just changed some of the key scenes that happen in the first act that I think make it a lot more interesting. At least I'm more interested in it, and I feel very, very excited. So now that my first act outline is done, my goal for this weekend is to finish chapters 1 to 4, and I'll be halfway done with my first act, which is the furthest I've ever been with any writing project. The last thing I want to say before we get into writing is I had no idea people came up with project names for their novel, and so I decided to come up with Project Sailor after watching a bunch of writing vlogs where people talked about their project names. Project Sailor has absolutely nothing to do with the theme of my book. It has nothing to do with sailors, and like I said, I'll talk more about it later. But yeah, I just like Sailor Moon. But enough talking, let's get to writing. Okay, so I just finished chapter 1, which I'm really happy about. I'm gonna take a bit of a break and then I'm gonna start on chapter 2. The goal for chapter 2 is to at least get halfway done today and then finish the rest of it tomorrow. But I would be really, really happy if I could get it done today. But it's 3 times the length that I plan on doing for chapter 1, so that may or may not happen, and I don't want to burn myself out the first day I'm really jumping back into a writing project. But I'll update you all tomorrow on what I got done today. So today is a new day, and honestly, I did not write nearly as much as I thought I would yesterday. Really late last night, I did start on chapter 2, but I only wrote about 130 or so words before I got tired and went to bed. So that means today I need to write a lot more. I don't think I'll be finishing up to chapter 4 today, but I do want to finish chapter 2 and write chapter 3 during the next week, and then I'll probably have to add chapter 4 to the next weekend. But I think if I write more during the week, that'll help me with my weekend goals. Initially, I wanted to only write during the weekend and do more like planning and plotting stuff during the week, but I think I'll try to do a little bit of writing during the week. So instead of trying to write a full 10,000 words during the weekend, maybe I can write about 4,000 words over the weekend and then 6,000 words during the week, or modify that number in some way so that it's not feeling too overwhelming, especially at the beginning, because I really just don't want to fall into the trap of feeling overwhelmed and then stopping for like the 50th time with a book idea. So I'll finish chapter 2 today, hopefully let you all know how that goes by the end, and then set some new goals for the upcoming week. Okay, so I wanted to give you all an update on how chapter 2 is going, and it's not going super great, but I did write about another 300 words, and I'm starting to see what's wrong with the story. But instead of continuing to outline and make it perfect, I just moved on to chapter 4, and specifically the end of chapter 4, because that is what leads into what happens that sets the rest of the story in motion. So I want to spend next week working more on my outline, like I initially planned on doing, but I want to spend the rest of today going through chapter 4 and I think chapter 5, because as soon as I got to the end of chapter 4, I was really able to write a lot more. I've almost got another 1,000 words after skipping the more boring parts from the beginning. And I don't want to keep the beginning of my book boring, or else no one's going to want to read it. But it's also my first draft, and it's more important to just keep on going. So I'm going to hold off on editing that until the rest of the week. And when I say edit, I mean edit my outline, not even edit the actual writing. Because even though I'm really excited about what I'm writing right now with chapter 4 and 5, it's not like the writing is good. It's just I think the part of the story is more interesting. And so I'm not really focused on making the writing better, but I'm focused on making the details of the story better first before working on the writing, if that makes sense. So yeah, chapter 2 kind of got more words, but really focusing on the end of chapter 4 and getting through chapter 5. Maybe not finishing chapter 5 today, because that's going to be another 3,000 words, but we'll see. Maybe the exciting part of the story will really help me just finish out chapter 5, but either way, I'll let you all know what happens when I finish writing for the day. So I've written more today, and today is just going in ways that I was not expecting. So I finished the end of chapter 4, and then I started chapter 5, and I finished chapter 5, but not in the way I thought I would finish chapter 5. Initially, chapter 5 was supposed to be like most of my other chapters, around 3,000 words, but I ended up making it only 1,000 words and considering that finished, because I think chapter 5 is actually going to be my new chapter 1. It starts off way more exciting and engaging, and I think it still leads into a story, because I realized what happened in chapter 5 sets the tone for the beginning of the story, but there still needs to be something else that happens that brings my character on a journey. So I'm going to keep everything that I've written, which is about 3,000 words this weekend, actually a little bit more than that, because part of what I wrote in the beginning, I think I can sprinkle throughout the rest of the book as my main character's backstory. And I think that would be way more interesting than having the reader read all this information about her hometown and her village, whatever, at the very beginning. I just don't think it's really grabbing the attention. But now that I've finished my 5th chapter, I want to say my story is about a girl who wants to become a vampire hunter, but instead gets turned into a vampire, and now she has to figure out how she's going to navigate that and what her new goal is going to be, or if she's going to continue on with her original goal. And that's all I'll say right now about that. And so if you couldn't guess by that brief description, I was going to have chapter 5 be the catalyst where she gets turned into a vampire, but I think it'll be more interesting to start the book off with her being turned into a vampire, and now she has to figure out what the heck she's going to do after that. So yeah, I think this is way more exciting. I'm really happy about that. I still think I have 3,000 usable words, or at least mostly usable, because like I said, I can take what I have in the beginning and sprinkle it throughout my book. But yeah, I'm satisfied with how this weekend ended, even though it didn't end in the way I initially planned. I still made progress, and I think I'm gonna have a more interesting beginning because of this. So yeah, that is it.